Welcome to the Vault Studios Fantasy Football Podcast, your one-stop shop for all fantasy football info. Here are your hosts.
Welcome to the Vault Studio Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Lewis, and as always, I'm joined by Corey. How you doing, man?
Good. I'm in the kitchen tonight, so everyone's sleeping. So I'm trying to stay as quiet as I can. That's the real life me right now.
Is that like a metaphor? Like you're in the kitchen cooking up some hot takes, or?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing.
Oh, Corey, we are into week seven of the NFL season. It is absolutely flying by. And as I'm sure you already know now, if you tried to set your lineups, we are in bye week hell. There are some seriously good teams and a lot of teams who are on bye week in week 7, looking at the Buffalo Bills, Dallas Cowboys, Jacksonville Jaguars, Minnesota Vikings, Pittsburgh Steelers, and Los Angeles Chargers. Now, running back has been thin as it is this year, but we're missing a lot of running back ones. Zeke Elliott, Dalvin Cook, James Robinson, Najee Harris, Austin Eckler, all on the sidelines this week. Throw in there some top-tier wide receiver talent, and your lineups are looking very, very thin. Many people, myself included, are just penciling these up to automatic losses in week 7, and we'll bounce back in week 8 and try to get on with that playoff push. I don't know why the NFL has scheduled in another round of games and then not at least spaced out the bye weeks a little better. I don't know. There's just they always seem to really mess up the scheduling. I don't know why they managed to do this. But anyway, we deal with what we can.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is the worst week. There might be another one, but it definitely screws it up as well as injuries and things like that. I mean, everyone was complaining last week about injuries and bye weeks, so this week is way worse. So
way worse, because on top of all those running backs I just mentioned, we'll dive into some transactional and injury news right now. We're also down Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, the dynamic duo in the Browns backfield, and Chris Carson, who's gone for a stint on IR as well. So good luck to you if you're in a league which requires you to start, 2 or 3 running backs. You're going to be scraping the bottom of the barrel seriously in this week. So good luck with that. But last week, around 5 or 6 days ago, it was announced that Zach Ertz had finally been traded from the Philadelphia Eagles. Really, this is just great news for fantasy owners in general at the tight end position, because now Zach Ertz moves on. He becomes a starting tight end for the Arizona Cardinals, and Dallas Goedert becomes a tight end 1 with nobody else around to be bothersome at the tight end position in Philadelphia. So good news if you roster either of those two guys. Any other takeaways from that other than good for Goddard, good for Ertz?
I like it for Goddard. Obviously, this is kind of where we drafted him to be anyway, because everyone kind of had that assumption that Ertz would be on the move. It just happened a little bit later than we all thought. Right. For Ertz, I guess it's fine. I don't think he's going to produce that much more than he already has. It's just kind of a sideways move. I think if there's someone in your league who thinks it's like a huge upward trajectory, I would be happy to move him.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I don't think it's huge. It's probably, closer to a lateral move, but there's no doubt he's moving into a much better offense, and a significantly better offense. And so, there will be some weeks there when they're not hammering 4 wide receivers that Zach Ertz does get some run. But the other big rumor, I woke up this morning and my Twitter and sleeper notifications had exploded all over the place. But it seems now that the Deshaun Watson trade rumors are really hotting up seriously for the first time since week 1, and that Miami are seriously in play for Deshaun Watson. Whether this happens remains to be seen, but really just tells you how the Dolphins feel about Tua Tagovailoa and his future there in Miami. Obviously, everyone wants Watson out of Houston at this point, just so he hopefully will play.
He wants out of Houston.
He wants out of Houston, right? off the field issues pending. But have you read much on this? I know that Washington football team was potentially involved in a 3-way trade, maybe the Denver Broncos, but that seems to have been kiboshed. What are you thinking on this situation here?
I haven't looked at like the rumors of the other teams, but it makes sense from the Dolphins' point of view. I think the owner really wants Watson. I think this is, where the puppet master is pulling the strings here, because I can't see, the current coaching staff trying to undercut Tua here even more so, like they did last year as well. So there's obviously some kind of disconnect here between ownership, general manager, and the head coach, and how they foresee the future going. So, I think if Watson does end up in Miami, I think it's arrows up for everyone in that situation. Obviously, they got lots of weapons there that I think could come really alive if Watson became the quarterback.
Yeah, plenty of weapons. Jalen Waddle obviously returned to form last week. Tua hasn't looked good, and we can forgive a rookie season coming off the hip injury and so on and so forth, but he just hasn't looked good. Now, the organization hasn't done right by him, hasn't given him the offensive line that he probably needed, but at some point you want the guy to show you something, and if the Dolphins don't think he's the guy, then it's time to move on and get something in return for him before his value depletes even further. And there's, in economics, it's the sunk cost fallacy that you shouldn't continue to, invest in an asset just because that asset cost you a lot, i.e. the 6th overall pick. You end up damaging yourself even more in the long term. It's better to cut bait and run. And I think that's what the Dolphins should do at this point if Deshaun Watson is available and they can work out a trade with the Houston Texans, because by anyone's measure, Deshaun Watson's probably a top 5, top 6 quarterback in the league if he's healthy and playing. And because we haven't seen him for a little bit, people are probably starting to forget just what a talented quarterback Deshaun Watson is. And he would certainly put the Miami Dolphins into the playoff hunt should he become available.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think that's a question. And as a Patriot fan and seeing Deshaun Watson in the AFC East, I do not want to see that. Yeah.
Between him and I know you're not the biggest Josh Allen guy, but the Bills are looking really good, and to have him and Deshaun Watson there would be a big problem. So I'm, as a Patriots fan, hoping it doesn't happen. From a fantasy perspective, where Deshaun Watson is sitting collecting dust on my bench in Superflex leagues, now would be a nice time for him to start playing and get me some points towards my playoff push. All right, let's move on to some more injuries. We mentioned Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb for the Cleveland Browns. Both have been ruled out. By the time you're hearing this, Thursday Night Football will have already happened. But Dearness Johnson is going to be the guy to pick up and go with here. If you're, I'm going to give my prediction from the future that Johnson finishes with at least 15 PPR points. I think he could have a good game. They're going to lean on the run without Baker Mayfield, with Case Keenum in the center.
You don't love Case Keenum? Revenge game?
Oh, of course. But I said at least, right? You think that's too low?
I think that's a lot.
15 PPR points he's going to be basically their 3-down back. I know there's Felton is there, but
you don't love the dual capability wide receiver running back Dominic Felton in some leagues.
He's an explosive guy, but he's a bit of a gadget guy. And I just think, with Odell Beckham potentially unlikely to suit up as well with his shoulder injury, this is going to be Jarvis Landry and Dearness Johnson on the ground. And we've seen him have okay games before, and if they can patch up their O-line a little bit more, I think you can expect some points out of him. But we called it last week. Paris Campbell was going to have a game. He had a game, and then he got hurt. And this man's back on the IR again. He spent more time on the IR than he has on the football field. It's a damn shame, but pat ourselves on the back for that good call. And as we mentioned as well, Chris Carson has gone to the IR, but Rashad Penny is being reactivated and is raring to go, and Pete Carroll is rubbing his thighs at the prospect of finally getting some juice out of his first round draft pick. if you've got Penny, you're probably playing him this week because there isn't many other options. And Alex Collins has been banged up. You've got DJ Dallas. You've got Travis Homer there. I mean, I don't expect much out of any of these guys, especially with Geno Smith on the center. And Rashad Penny's a thick boy. He can carry the loads, assuming he stays healthy. Which, again, like Paris Campbell, he's struggled to do. But Rashad Penny, when he has been on the field, has been really, really good for Seattle. Like, he can make dudes miss. He's got very good lateral movement. I like Rashad Penny. It's a shame his career's gone the way it has, but beggars can't be choosers at this point in the season when it comes to running back. So I think Rashad Penny is certainly in the mix as a running back to this week. Any other injuries you wanted to note before we move on to sort of the next announcement?
I mean, there's just so many. Yeah, I think we'll leave it for now, but just keep an eye on the updates. I mean, we get them coming through constantly. If you have Sleeper, they come through automatically. Just keep an eye on those because your roster is probably forever changing as we talk. Yeah,
I've set all my Sleeper lineups once already today, and I'm definitely going to do it again later on today because things will have definitely changed. But the big story, I guess, here in Australia, and I think most of our listeners are based in Australia, so apologies for those who are overseas. I guess not really relevant for you, but unfortunately, DraftKings.
We might need some proxies.
We might need some proxies. Yeah, DraftKings is withdrawing or halting its operations in Australia for the foreseeable future, which is a shame because I think a lot of Australians have really enjoyed getting to understand and play DraftKings. I know I certainly have. It's a ton of fun. Run a lot of competitions on there. I was fortunate enough to be a partner with DraftKings and help them build their user base here in Australia. So it is a shame that that's no longer happening. Clint, who has been on the show a few times, he was the Aussie rep. He's no longer with DraftKings either, and so they are ceasing operations. They aren't giving up forever. Apparently, they are looking to come back at some point, but there is no set date or even timeline for that at this stage. So until then,
do you think it's because of Moneyball and what's the other one, Prop Stars or whatever it's called?
Draft Stars. No, because Moneyball doesn't do DFS anymore. Moneyball turned into a sports book.
All right, then.
So there's only one DFS provider left in Australia now, and that's the Australian based and owned Draft Stars, which is similar to DraftKings. It's not quite as good. Their pricing is a little different. It's because when you're used to looking at DraftKings, your percentage and what you're looking for is a little bit different, and they run half-point PPR scoring as well. So I think similar to FanDuel in the US is probably the difference between them and DraftKings. So it's a shame to see them go. But if you're looking to play daily fantasy, Draft Stars is is the place to be.
So you're saying there's an opening for us to start a new company?
Yeah, there is. But if you knew how difficult it was to get a gaming license in Australia, oh my goodness, it's outrageous.
I know some people, Lewis.
You know some people. All right. Well, maybe we can pool our resources. I'll put in the balance of my DraftKings account, and you can put in your next basketball contract, and we'll take over the DFS world.
All right, sounds like a plan.
But who knows, right? This might give an opportunity for someone like Underdog Fantasy, hint, or Monkey Knife Fight to come on over to Australia. However, they will face these hurdles of obtaining a license. So it is what it is. I hope they come back. But for now, if you can find other ways to play on the site, I don't even know if you'd be able to because everyone's identity is verified as Australian and things like that. So it is a real shame, but we still have Draft Stars to satisfy our daily fantasy sports needs. All right, that's 15 minutes. That's long enough. Let's dive into the meat of the podcast, the meat and potatoes, why everyone's here. They want to hear our thoughts on the upcoming slate. And we'll start with the game of the week, the highest implied points total of the week.
57.5. Yep.
Yeah, the Titans against Kansas City. This one could be absolutely electric. The Titans have got the win back in their sails after a great win over the Buffalo Bills. What are you looking at from this game? Because
Everything.
Everything, right? This is just points.
Yeah, play everyone. I don't know. I was listening to Warren Sharp's podcast today. They were like, I don't know who punts in this game. First one to punt loses, basically. The Chiefs' offense has been sensational, and you might not think that considering the record. But, the thing that's holding them back, obviously, is the turnovers. But once they figure that out, like this team's going to be averaging 40 points a game anyway. Like they're just unstoppable. So
yeah, and they've had some bad luck. A few of these interceptions that Mahomes has thrown have been uncharacteristic drops from Tyreek Hill, balls bouncing off his hands, things like that. And people are saying, "Oh, Mahomes, have the league figured him out, or what's going on?" He's still absurd. This could be a 40 to 37 type game with a late field goal to cinch it. Someone driving down the field. This could be a real barn burner. Remember the Chiefs Rams a few years ago on Monday Night Football? This could be that.
Like that.
I'm betting the over because I'm not a coward and I want to see points. I think Julio Jones has practiced. AJ Brown is good to go, who had a fairly solid week, all things considered, coming off the injury. Then he had food poisoning, apparently was shitting himself senseless, according to Derrick Henry. Julio Jones is always going to be managed with his niggles, but AJ Brown moves into wide receiver 1 territory. And this could be the game that we've waited for Ryan Tannehill, right? This could be the 30-point game that we've been hoping to see. So fingers crossed for that. Play everyone. Next game is going to be the Green Bay Packers against the Washington Football Team. Corey, I know what your take is going to be here. I know you're very excited about this.
It's McKissick season again.
It is.
Forever McKissick season, I guess, because he had 8 receptions and no one else had more than 4 last game. This Packers defense is very susceptible to the run. Antonio Gibson left that game early last week. His status is up in the air. He still has that stress fracture, or I think that's what it is. Stress.
Is it stress fracture in his shin?
Yes, in his tibia. So that's not good. So he's not only questionable in this game, but he's got that. It's not going to go away this season. So play McKissick. Obviously, you'll talk about McLaurin, but as for the Packers, you're starting your normal Packers.
Yeah, 100%. But last week, I tipped McLaurin to be a top 5 receiver on the week. Unfortunately, he was out there playing hobbled with a hamstring injury, but his usage was still good. He didn't pop off in the box score, but he has another good matchup this week. A lot of cornerbacks injured for the Green Bay Packers. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to throw all over this defense. They're just, Devontae Adams is going to be open at will. Aaron Jones is going to be able to run against the light front because they rarely stack the boxes, the Washington defense. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what McLaurin does in this game. Devontae Adams, I think this could be a real fun one for football fans to watch. Just a note on Antonio Gibson. I know you were lower on him than consensus this season, so that was a great call that worked out well for you. But I really think this is going to be one of these massive overreactions that we see in the ADP market come draft time next year. People will feel burned and scorned by taking Antonio Gibson as like a top 15 running back. We've seen this before with Leonard Fournette a few years ago when his ADP got out of control, and then he was available in the 3rd round. Prior to the year he was cut in Jacksonville, and he was just money. It was that season when he had like 75 receptions or something ridiculous. And I think something similar it could happen with Antonio Gibson. I think he's going to be an excellent value come draft season next year, and people will feel burned by him, and rightly so. But as is tradition in the fantasy football landscape, people overreact, and Gibson will become a value.
Yeah, I could see that. Definitely.
Even you might draft him. That's what a value he could be. You might even draft him.
And every year is different. We'll know more information I think that becomes even a bigger issue if he actually ends up, sitting out officially or going on IR or whatever. I just think Washington has to be careful with him because of his injury. If they get really behind here, I don't know why they would even play him. They drafted Jarrett Patterson.
Right. Let's see what he's
they have
got.
guys. Yeah, just why play him? Just sit him down. And that's why I said last week, if you have space, just put Jarrett Patterson somewhere and hide him for a while. Because as soon as like week 10, 11, 12 fantasy playoffs, he could be someone that could really help you.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And really, the season hasn't gone the way the Washington football team thought it would. They expected to be one of the top defenses in the NFL. In reality, they've been one of the worst. They thought that Fitzpatrick could bring the offense to life. He got badly injured. They had to go back to Taylor Heineke. So things just really haven't worked out. Yeah, weird that the old man Fitzpatrick, who puts his body on the line every single play, would get hurt. So really interesting to see. I think Washington should get Gibson on ice, because there's no doubt about his talent, and use McKissick in the passing game, and let's see what Jarrett Patterson can do, because give him a few games to get used to the NFL speed and see how he goes. All right, Ravens versus Bengals, division rivalry game. These are always fun.
Battle for first place.
Who'd have thought? Now, it involves the Bengals. This is almost certainly going to involve a tie or overtime and just some kind of shenanigans. So I'm really looking forward to this one as well. Looking to see the challenge that Joe Burrow steps up to here after the Baltimore defense absolutely turn the screws on the Chargers and really separate themselves as one of the superior teams in the AFC. Still think the Chargers were a good football team. It was just one of those weeks. But the Bengals are going to have to play very, very well. But I am interested. Obviously, all of your Bengals are usually playing. But my takeaway was Rashad Bateman made his first game of the season, and he got 6 targets. He tied for a team high 6 targets with Mark Andrews, one more than Hollywood Brown. He showed some glimpses, and Sammy Watkins may be back this week, and that could cut into his workload. But I think Bateman is the better talent at this point in their respective careers, and I hope to see him get some usage in what's a pretty soft matchup against this Bengals secondary.
Yeah, and I really like Bateman. I think he's going to be that underneath kind of receiver, that possession type receiver, running those intermediate crossing routes. Pretty much what they wanted Sammy Watkins to be when they paid him the money to come there. I just think he's the new shiny toy as well. And they're going to try to feed him a little bit more than you might think, with just screens and early touches, quick slants and things like that, because he's good with the ball in his hands. So he's just one of those kind of guys. So that's why they drafted him. The Minnesota product himself. I wish Tyler Johnson would get more love, but anyway.
Hashtag free Tyler Johnson.
I digress. So, I really like what they're trying to do with Bateman and that offense. And this game should be pretty exciting. I think it's going to be really good to see what this Cincinnati defense, who's ranked in the top 10 right now, can do with Lamar Jackson, who is an MVP candidate, no doubt.
Yeah, completely agree with that on Lamar Jackson. Giants versus Carolina Panthers.
Ew.
This is it. It's Robbie Anderson week, finally.
Come on, man.
Dude, he's right. So his usage has trended up, 10 targets and 11 targets. He had some drops, but we don't care about drops. We care about usage. He got himself a touchdown. I think this could be the week against, not a great Giants defense for Robbie Anderson to finally break out. And I think, this is a better matchup for Sam Darnold than he's had in recent weeks, and it's the kind of game where he could score some points here. I think the Panthers are going to win this game comfortably. I don't think the Giants are very good. I think they're going to harass Daniel Jones. I think Brian Burns is going to cause at least one fumble from Daniel Jones. So, this game, probably not going to be the most exciting. But I think if you've been hanging out for Robbie Anderson to break out, given all of the bye weeks and such, I think there's worse options than playing Robbie Anderson this week.
There might be, but I'm not doing it. There's Robbie Anderson, and then it's a list of about, 40, 50 guys, I'm just like, yeah, I'll throw a dart and take him. Like, give me some random Browns receiver tonight.
Donovan People-Jones.
Rashard Higgins or something. But no, look, I really hope that it happens for Robbie Anderson owners. I'm not one of those people. We'll just feed DJ Moore and get the heck out of this game. And Devontae Booker, of course, because, you gotta feed the beast when you have them.
Oh, Devontae Booker, the beast. I was pretty much spot on with my projection for what was going to happen with him, by the way.
He did get his 3 catches, or 3 or 4 catches.
Yeah, he did. It was like 11 fantasy points or something like that.
Right.
Right, which is just what we expected against the Rams. All right, let's move on to the Dolphins versus the Falcons. Talk about an uninspiring game. Probably another big week for Kyle Pitts here after they come back off their bye week. Calvin Ridley is going to be involved. They don't have any cornerbacks healthy, so look for Calvin Ridley to potentially get something going here and finally have a big breakout game. But my big takeaway from last week and moving forward is that Jalen Waddle is just going to be targeted by his guy Tua. It's an improved average depth of target as well. I was listening to the PFF Fantasy podcast before with Inhartits and Andrew Erickson, and just before I jumped on here while I was doing some vacuuming, and one of the stats they said that the Waddle's ADOT with Tua is just over 7 yards, and with Jacoby Brisket under center, it was like he had one game with a negative ADOT. It was like 2 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards. So we haven't seen him, go deep on one yet, take one to the house, but the usage is there. And with his ability, ball in hand, it's only a matter of time before he's able to do that. And against this sorry Falcons defense, you like Waddle to have a really good game.
Yeah, it definitely should be. He got peppered with targets last week. This Atlanta secondary, this whole Atlanta defense is pretty young and inexperienced. And I think the short game with Waddle, they target him early with like screens and just easy catchable balls. I think he can continue to do that this week against this Falcons defense.
Man, it feels like it's been for like 5 straight years. We've just been saying, this Falcons defense doesn't offer much. It's an easy score.
Yeah,
they stink. It's just a bad franchise. Patriots versus Jets. Already come around. Sorry, go ahead.
Quick before we get to the massacre. My running back 1 is back. Cordarrelle Patterson this week.
Yes, Cordarrelle, the RB1. The guy is back. By the way, I think Mike Davis is in play as well. I think both of these guys, they're used differently. But I think Mike Davis has been very successful, just really hasn't got the touchdowns. But both these guys in play, but Patterson's been sensational. Patriots versus Jets, yes, there's probably going to be another massacre. Mac Jones took some big strides against the Dallas Cowboys, ultimately couldn't get the win, but I thought he started to look a lot better. And really the thing I like to see, I predicted it. Hunter Henry got himself in the end zone again, but he's been the primary pass catching target, at least at the tight end position. Not a tough matchup against the Jets here. So I like Hunter Henry as a play this week. Is there anything else you want to go about this game? It's from a fantasy perspective, it's pretty gross. I'm obviously going to enjoy the game. I always love watching the Pats play the Jets, but it's not going to be a fantasy.
It's not going to be fun to watch if you're not a Patriot fan or a Jet fan, I guess.
Well, it's not going to be fun if you're a Jet fan either. Let's be honest.
I'm interested in seeing how they deploy the receivers. The Jets, they just had, the time off. I want to see how Elijah Moore is used.
Yes.
I want to see how Michael Carter is used. Like, is Tevin Coleman done and dusted? Are we done with that? Because Michael Carter was starting to take a step forward in the first few weeks there. So it'll be interesting to see how they deploy those guys and get a little bit more data on those younger receivers or not necessarily younger receivers, but just options in the fantasy kind of doldrums, if you will. The Jamison Crowders, the Corey Davises, Elijah Moores, the Michael Carters. So after the bye week, I'm guessing that they've worked on something to kind of change it up. Maybe not.
It is the Jets after all, so I don't want to be too presumptuous.
But yeah, so that's what I'm looking at in that game.
Yep, I really want to see something from Elijah Moore. He's been unlucky. He's been a couple of inches away from a few big plays. So interested to see what he can do. But it looks like Jamison Crowder is blocking his path to serious playing time. Raiders versus Eagles. The Raiders bounced back, got off, moved on from the John Gruden scandal and was able to rally as a unit. Their interim head coach is a hilarious dude. He got them wanting to run through a brick wall, and they got the interim coach bounce. Whether that's going to continue, we'll wait and see, because their defense is absolute hot garbage. But they have a chance against the Eagles, who've had their own struggles. But I think this is going to be an opportunity for the Eagles, whose offense has struggled, to maybe get something going here. Obviously, you're playing Jalen Hurts, because no matter what, he's basically a top 5 quarterback at all times. He just manages to get it done with his ridiculous running ability. Devonta Smith has been great in terms of his usage. He's on track. And Dallas Goedert, as we sort of talked about at the top of the show, he's probably going to be activated from the COVID list as well. So big game for him, I would expect to see. But I'm really curious now to see how this backfield for the Raiders shakes itself out, because since Jacobs has come back from injury, you thought he was getting the inside track, and Drake was like, oh my God, they paid this guy $11 million guaranteed to do nothing. Then all of a sudden, bam, Kenyon Drake was back. And I'm sure he's on everyone's benches. And you go, okay, well, is this a coaching thing? We know Jacobs was Gruden's guy. Gruden absolutely wanted Jacobs. He was in love with his talent and was going to make sure that he was going to at least get him on the field or do as much as he can with him. And I think that the Kenyon Drake signing might have been a more of a Mike Mayock decision. I know that Gruden basically ran everything, but he seemed to have no interest in using Kenyon Drake. Gruden's out of the building, and now Drake gets all kind of involvement here. Well, obviously, we're dealing with the smallest sample size possible, but I'm just very curious to see how this game shakes out. And because the Raiders' defense is so bad, we could end up with another position here where Josh Jacobs is a bit more sensitive to game scripts. But we'll just have to wait and see. I'm just looking forward to seeing if the Eagles' offense can actually get something going and give Jalen Hurts a little bit of breathing room as the starting quarterback.
Look, to be fair to the Raiders' defense, they're not that. They're league average this year. They're right in the middle of the pack. I just don't love this Philly team. There seems to be some kind of disconnect going on. Like, they just refuse to run the ball. The Miles Sanders sadness just continues on and on every week. Kenneth Gainwell can't even get in the mix. Like,
what was that about? Like,
I have no idea.
We were both like, oh yeah, Kenny Gainwell could get something going here, and it's just like, no, Kenny Gainwell to the shadow
one
realm.
Carry for 1 yard or one catch for 1 yard.
Yeah,
awesome,
great.
Basically,
it was because the other parts of their offense were working so well that they didn't feel the need to get electric playmaker Kenny Gainwell involved.
Yeah, it just seems like it's Smith and maybe Kez Watkins is starting to emerge here as legitimate threat. But it still seems really hard to trust anyone other than Smith and Hurts at this point on offense. As for the Raiders, Henry Ruggs has actually been pretty good this year in a sneaky kind of way. I guess he's basically like Nelson Aguilar last year.
Yeah, he's not getting the volume, but you're right. He's making these big splash plays, which then begs the question, well, why is he not being targeted more?
Yeah, but that's just a Derek Carr thing. Like, he's looking for his tight end, and everyone else gets like...
Because Darren Waller hasn't done book for 3 weeks.
He's got to throw to someone. Who's he throwing to then?
Hunter Renfrow.
He's not. Yeah, okay. He's throwing to Hunter Renfrow, and that's pretty much it.
Zay Jones.
Everyone else gets three. Zay Jones. Everyone else gets 3 targets.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a little bit rough. I think he's kind of like your dart throw. Hopefully gets a long 1 touchdown. That's definitely what he's going to be this week if you have to play him, because you probably do have to play him if he's on your roster. So good luck to everyone in that situation.
Good luck indeed. We've now got a double revenge game. Rams versus Lions. Quarterback against quarterback against their old teams. It's going to be weird for Lions fans because Matthew Stafford is like the best quarterback they've had in a hot minute. And now they've got Jared Goff.
Top minute, like ever.
Yeah.
Rodney Pete.
I wasn't be so bold to be like go back to the the beginning of their franchise, right? Yeah, here you go, peeling off names. Dan Orlovsky. No, but obviously Stafford has been a great quarterback. Lions fans love Matt Stafford still. They sort of like gave him their blessing to let him go. And I feel that Lions fans are so mentally broken and trapped to support the Lions, but also Matt Stafford. They might just start rooting for the Rams in this game because they love Matt Stafford more than they love the Lions.
I think it's John Kitna. John Kitna's second.
John Kitna, yeah, there you go. Except for those ones who've got the Stockholm syndrome so bad that you'll always support the Lions no matter what. They could be having their heads turned and looking at Matthew Stafford launching bombs downfield to Cooper Kupp.
It's not going to be good.
And it's not going to be good. It's going to be a massacre. But from a fantasy perspective, I think you need to go and pick up Amon-Ra St. Brown. He had his third straight game with at least 5 receptions and at least 7 targets. This is a real hard.
It wasn't.
No,
pretty.
It wasn't pretty
until later.
And this is a hard matchup here because Jalen Ramsey plays the slot like 45% of the time, according to PFF data. And so
you got to start your studs, though.
You've got to start your studs, which is why you need to play Jared Goff in this matchup. No, you got. Who's the Khalif Raymond's Khalif Raymond, like maybe you get something out of him, but DeAndre Swift is trending to taking over this backfield. But I still think you play Jamal Williams. If you've got to play Jamal Williams as well. That's about it. From the Rams, you're starting everyone, right? Cooper Kupp could have 600 yards this game.
He could. You're definitely starting Cooper Kupp. You're starting Robert Woods. Darrell Henderson's
Darrell. Yeah. Beautiful spot. Shit, I'd even start Tyler Higbee here.
Shit, I might even start Sony Michel here if I'm in a pinch. He might fall in the end zone.
Yeah, you know what? He might get like 4 carries for 2 touchdowns.
So yeah, you're definitely starting all your Rams in this spot. I think the Rams take care of business against this Lions team that looked a little spry there for a minute, but I think that's all that juice that they had.
Yeah, it's the juice has well and truly been squeezed out of that roster, and they're just not a good football team. Moving on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Chicago Bears, and well, the Chicago Bears absolutely stink, but we were this close to an Allen Robinson week. He led the league in unrealized air yards. So he had a 166-yard difference in his receiving yards versus air yards, which is the largest disparity in a single week all year. Like, he couldn't get on the same page as Fields. Fields can throw the ball deep. He can throw the ball quite well. It's his processing and decision-making, which is stagnating this offense. But we just need one of those to hit against a banged-up Tampa Bay secondary, and we could be back in the Allen Robinson business. Same with Darnell Mooney. If it doesn't happen this week, though, you go, I don't think it's going to happen at all, going up against the secondary with starting cornerbacks Carlton Davis, Sean Murphy-Bunting, and newly signed Richard Sherman out. So the Buccaneers are going to be scrabbling, and I think Justin Fields is going to be forced into throwing more to try and keep up in this game because Tampa's going to run up points on them real quick.
You say that he's going to be forced, and we think that, but
he probably won't.
Because not one team has come out against the Bucs and actually just ran the ball. Every single team has said, look, we're not going to be able to run the ball. We're just going to chuck it around. But this Bears team, up until last week, and I gave this out, I think on this pod last week as well, but I mentioned Justin Fields' pass attempts, and it was at 29.5 last week, which would have been, a career high.
By a mile.
He still didn't get there. He got 27 last week against the Packers. They lost by 10. So 27.
What's his line this week?
It's not out yet.
It's not out yet. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's thrown for basically from the Cleveland game. He's thrown for 20 passes, 17 passes, 20 passes, and then 27 last week. I just don't know what the strategy. It's really like opposing strategies here, like the Bucs. obviously are one of the fastest teams. They throw a ton. The Bears, one of the slowest teams. They run a ton. And yet
it's
Tampa
real
Bay's
chalk
run
and
defense is really
cheese.
good. So
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to do. I
This
really
is what
don't.
I mean. It could
I
get
have no
messy. It
idea.
could get messy for the Bears. Although I do think Khalil Herbert looked good.
Yeah, he did.
He looked really good with Damian Williams hitting the old COVID list.
Yeah,
So if
he did.
I was scramble and get him.
I was almost expecting Ryan Nall sighting, but that didn't happen. I think he got one carry.
Yeah, one carry. The great Ryan Nall. All right, next game. This one, what I'm dubbing the JJ Watt Bowl, the Arizona Cardinals against the Houston Texans. Yeah, I already talked about this, I guess, at the top, so I won't repeat myself other than to say I think now with Zach Ertz, you do have tight end one on the week, not overall, but like top 12 tight end potential on any given week where that path was just completely blocked in Philadelphia. This offense is electric. So if you've got Ertz, congratulations. You've been able to pick him up. Remember, after he played Thursday Night Football, was then traded, and everyone's like, will we get double fantasy points? And no, you can't play. You can't play for two different teams in a week per NFL policy. And then there was the meltdown with Sleeper, the points going back to 0, and everyone thinking they'd lost all of their Zach Ertz Thursday Night Football points. But alas, we got them back. What's your takeaway from this? Anything other than play Brandon Cooks?
Definitely playing Brandon Cooks, and I'm playing him over. Like, I'm really struggling to. I might play him over Chris Godwin this week.
Yeah.
Something.
No, I could see that. I don't think you can rank all three Buccaneers wide receivers in the top 20. I think the favorites have been pretty clear with Mike Evans and AB, and I have Brandon Cooks like as a top 20 play this week. So, yeah, over Chris Godwin isn't crazy to me at all.
Right. So, other than that, I mean, obviously, Texans. You're not really looking at any of their options. I mean,
Mark Ingram, 18 carries.
He did, and that was very interesting because the week before I knew he would get those carries against the Patriots, but the prior weeks to the Patriots games, he was not getting very many at all anymore other than the first game. So that's very interesting, and it'll be interesting to see if he gets that kind of workload again this week. But otherwise, yeah, I'm staying away from the Texans and what they're trying to do in this game.
Yeah, whatever they're trying to do. 49ers Colts. We talked Paris Campbell is out. 49ers Colts. There is a weird game. I think this is going to be a bit of a low scoring, messy game. Jonathan Taylor obviously exploded last week. Had a huge game
on 5 carries.
Sorry, what's that?
I was being facetious, but
yeah.
I said on 5 carries.
On 5 carries, yeah. Give Jonathan Taylor the ball, please, Frank Reich. Please do that. But for me, it's going to be T.Y. Hilton season because he came back off the IR. I told you he owned the Houston Texans, and he quietly put together a pretty good game. Had Carson Wentz threw some pretty big bombs downfield to Pittman, to T.Y. Hilton. So, I think T.Y. can get something going this week. Another game removed from being on the IR. He talked quite openly and frankly about considering retirement after all this, and he seems reinvigorated and glad to be out there and sort of looking a bit like the TY of old, with Carson Wentz looking a little bit better, being held up right by that offensive line. And I think maybe these ankle injuries might be the best thing to happen to Carson Wentz, just because it's forced him to just stay in the pocket. And if I'm Frank Reich, I'm just like casually stepping on Carson Wentz's ankles at all times, walking past him and dropping like a tin of beans on his foot when he's not wearing any shoes. Just small things to nick up and damage his mobility and keep him in the pocket. But I think T.Y. Hilton could have a good game this week.
Yeah, definitely. I think, he stepped back on the scene. He's a Texans crusher anyway, but he continued right back in that mold. It really hurt Michael Pittman, however. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how this develops as the season goes along. Obviously, the Paris Campbell injury might clear that up a little bit. Zach Pascal is pretty much dead.
Pour one out for my guy, Zach Pascal, who was
pour one out for my guy, Zach.
Dominating at the start of the year.
So that looks like it's far in between. I'm really interested to see if the Colts can win this game. Like, I feel like they should be able to win this game if Trey Lance is quarterback. It's just so vanilla with their It's just so basic with that 49ers pass offense with Trey Lance there. He just has a long way to go. So if the Colts can get a lead in this game, I think they'll just kind of grind it out. But the secondary for the 49ers is something definitely you can pick on.
Yeah. I'm interested to see whether they stick with Trey Lance or reinstate Jimmy. I think for the 49ers, I think the best thing to do there, I don't think they're a chance at winning the division. I think it's better if they invest in Trey Lance and get him out there, and hopefully have been able to work on some stuff in the bye week with him, and maybe make that offense work a little bit better, and maybe find a way to get Brandon Ayuk the fucking football, please. Maybe. All right, this game wraps up with the Seattle Seahawks against the Saints. A lot of the luster taken off this matchup by the fact that Russ Wilson is obviously out on IR with his finger injury. Chris Carson, as I said, is gone. Really, for me, the viable play here on the Seahawks side of the football is Rashad Penny. Like, you're obviously still starting DK Metcalf, and probably Tyler Lockett as well, given you're likely to have better options. But your expectation should be sincerely muted for them. And so, yeah, Rashad Penny. Let's see what you got, baby.
Yeah, I suppose that's the case. I mean, if you're in a real pinch, I guess DJ Dallas, he got 5 catches last game.
Yeah.
But I can only see that being an issue if they're down or if they're in like 2-minute offense, because that's what it seemed like he came in for those situations. So, it sounds like Michael Thomas is still a couple weeks away, so that's disappointing as well. If you drafted him, hoping that he would be back after this bye week. So you're looking at Marquez Callaway and Alvin Kamara, Jameis, and you're not loving those options. So obviously you're playing Alvin Kamara, but other than that, like, slim pickings out there Monday night.
Speaking of Alvin Kamara and disappointing things, when but seriously, when the Mike Thomas injury was announced, everyone was like, yeah, Kamara, he's going to get peppered with targets. He's the best playmaker in that team. Galaxy brain Sean Payton's going to find a way to use him. I'm just going to read out a list of numbers, and you see if you can tell me what they are. 100, 105, 97, 107, 22. That list is Alvin Kamara's target numbers every season in the NFL. He's gone, it just makes me sick. He has 15 receptions through 5 games. He's averaging 3 receptions a game when he went 81, 81, 81, and 83 for the first 4 seasons of his career. Like, what is Sean Payton doing?
But the caveat here is he might actually get a 1,000-yard rushing season.
Yeah, but I don't care. I don't care about the rushing yards.
I know you don't.
I know. Yeah, so that pisses me off. I just couldn't believe that. But that is the last game on the slate. Corey, was there anything else you wanted to touch on before we wrap things up?
No, that's about it. It's a grind right now. It's the fantasy season. Some people, are really in a bad spot. I mean, you might have started out hot, 2-0, lost 4 straight. That happened to me in a couple leagues. So just keep grinding. It's a long season. It's a lot longer than you think it is, especially this year. So just
a whole week longer. Yeah. It does. It's funny, right? It feels like it's flying by, but at the same time, you're like, oh shit, we are only in week 7. It feels there's been so many injuries and so much news. Right. It's just like, oh shit, we're only not even halfway through. But enjoy it while it's here, because we all crave the return of football once we hit that off season. But for now, we're gonna sign off here. But make sure you follow the Vault Studio on Twitter, on Instagram.
Are we not
Facebook.
Doing streamers?
Oh. Thank you. I totally forgot that. So let's quickly dive into the streamers. I apologize. That's my mistake. I misread the show sheet. But yes, quarterback streamers. Fuck me. Corey is just getting the sweatiest wins. It's unbelievable at quarterback. So in week 5, he beat me by 0.1 of a point. Zach Wilson versus Justin Fields. And then in week 6, last week, he manages to beat me by 0.4 of a point with Big Ben versus Taylor Heineke. So he's peeled off 2 wins in a row by half a total point. Half a total point, which, let's just check out the total points on the season here. I'm averaging 80 points, and Corey's got 60 points. So,
No, we're not playing that way.
We're not playing that way. We're not playing that way. Corey's like, no. We're not playing that way. We're not going to look at the total points over the course of the season. So who have you got for this week then? Who are you going to beat me by fucking half a point this week with?
I'm going to go with Davis Mills against
shut up. If you beat me with David
Cardinals.
Mills, I will I'm done. I'm done. I'm quitting this podcast. If you beat me with Davis Mills, I am done. You're hosting this by yourself from now on, because I'm going with Sam Darnold against the New York Giants. Defense sucks. Sam Darnold, we've seen his ceiling. He might rush for a score. He's got good receivers. I don't think the New York Giants are going to trouble the Panthers at all. But if somehow you win this with Davis Mills, I'm done. I'm walking out.
Can't wait for Davis Mills' breakout game. It's going to be good.
Moving on over to the tight ends. Finally, I've had a bit of success here after Corey peeled off 3 straight wins. I've gone back-to-back with Ricky Seals-Jones this week. 15.8 points. He had a real nice game. Dan Arnold. Things could have been a lot better for Dan Arnold. He dropped a wide-open touchdown pass, I think, in the London game, or certainly dropped a pass that would have probably gotten him a few more points and potentially some more involvement in the offense. He finished with 4.7, so I took the game this week. Who are you going with at tight ends?
It's a tough question. I think I'm going to take... Can I take a guy that's going tonight? Does that count?
Of course, yeah.
I'm going to take David Njoku.
Nice. I mean, there's limited pass catches there. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to write this down here. Njoku v Broncos. Great. And I'm just going back to the well. I'm going straight back to Ricky Seals-Jones, who's gone 2 for 19, 5 for 41, and 4 for 58 and a score, and played like 98% of the snaps over the past 3 weeks. So Ricky Seals-Jones, my guy, don't let me down. I know he's got this in the bag for me. If I lose with both Ricky Seals-Jones and Davis Mills, I'm not just done on this podcast. I will retire from podcasting forever.
All right, guys. You know who to root for.
Njoku
and Davis Mills. Njoku's going to have another 7 for 140.
Yeah, he's a
touchdown game.
Monstrous game, and then go back to doing nothing just on the week when he bends me over and. All right, that is now officially the end of the show. We got the streams in. Thank you, Corey, for reminding me there. As I was saying before Corey rudely interrupted me, make sure you follow the Vault Studio on Twitter, at the Vault_studio, on Instagram, on Facebook. And if you do want to support the podcast, please go to patreon.com/the Vault Studio. There's a few different plans you can sign up for there, support the studio, help us continue to produce the pod and improve what we're doing. And yeah, just any support is really grateful. You can find Corey at CMoney52. You can find me at FF_downunder. But good luck in week 7. I'm Lewis. That's Corey. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. And we will catch you next week.